so The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
I am independent journalist Georgia Ford. Thank you so much for watching the Kimberly Potter trial here. We have just heard from one of the commanders at the Brooklyn Center Police Department who has detailed this afternoon policies regarding chases, policies surrounding the use of force, and has even gone through the technical procedures of how to draw your gun versus how to draw your taser, which is a big component of this trial, as we know that Kimberly Potter has said that she mistook her gun for her taser. I want you guys to take a listen. We're going to go through over the lunch break this afternoon some of that testimony. I want you guys to take a listen, for those of you who missed it, what that commander said in regards to the policy
and the risk to
for the pursuits. Take a listen.
In recognizing the risk to public safety created by vehicle pursuits, no officer or supervisor shall be criticized or disciplined for deciding not to engage in a vehicle pursuit or for terminating a pursuit already underway, even if permitted by state statute and department policy.
Sounds like that's giving officers some protection. They're not going to be judged later if they terminate a pursuit.
We want to take away any kind of unnecessary pressure that the officer might feel if they are making a decision that a pursuit is maybe too dangerous for them to continue.
On the second page, the policy addresses when to initiate. At number 1, and on the next page there's a number 2, correct?
Yes.
And to initiate a pursuit, there is in number 1 a list of crimes that officers in your department are authorized to initiate a pursuit for, correct?
Yes.
And do any of those include a gross misdemeanor warrant?
Not these probable cause crimes, no.
Now, if we go to number 2 on the next page, there is another provision for initiating, and what is required under that provision to initiate a vehicle pursuit?
The pursuing officer or officers have reason to believe that there is an imminent safety risk to the public or an officer if the driver or one of the occupants of the vehicle is not immediately apprehended.
So those are the sort of 2 bases upon which an officer could initiate a pursuit?
Yes.
Now, you heard there the prosecution asking the commander to go into detail about when the pursuits in Brooklyn Center are justified, what different factors are considered there. And based on the policy that was presented, it looks as though Kimberly Potter very well could have allowed Dante Wright to drive off. Joining me now is Benjamin Dixon. He is a political analyst, and we've been covering this trial on your channels in the morning. For those of you not familiar with Ben, please make sure you follow his pages. Ben, today there was a lot that came forth in both testimony and evidence. When you hear what that commander detailed about the pursuit policies, what are your thoughts?
You know, Georgia, there's a level of desire that's attached to some of these pursuits from my best perspective. If there was an option for Dante to have been let go, so to speak, and it wasn't taken and it turned into everything that came, you know, it's just kind of part and parcel of what we see in so many other instances where things that are minute, things that really they would overlook depending on the hue of the passenger or the driver of the vehicle, right? But those incidents that are very minor often turn into catastrophic events.
Yeah, absolutely. And Commander Garrett, he talked about, in most cases, if there was a suspect wanted for manslaughter or murder or another violent crime, that in those instances, they would absolutely want to pursue a vehicle. But in this case, Dante Wright allegedly was wanted for missing court. And so in that case, you know, since they did ID him, that was the other thing that the defense kept trying to say is like that he hadn't been ID'd. but he had been ID'd because that's how they knew that he had a warrant. And so when you have the identification of the individual, you can always go through your system, find their home address, and follow up with them on a later day. You don't have to pursue their vehicle in that moment and put the public in danger.
That's right. Right. There's always justice. It's not as though they don't know where he lives. And this is the issue, right? There's a level of desire that is attached to these officers carrying out their duties. It's not as though they reluctantly engage in this pursuit. Reluctant would have said, OK, let's live to fight another day. But instead they pursued. And that shows a level of desire, which actually translates into intent. But that's for the jury to decide.
Correct. Now, I do want you guys to hear from Special Agent Brent Peterson. There was a moment on the stand yesterday when he talked about those moments, right? And there was a lot of evidence that came forth yesterday also that refuted the claims of Kimberly Potter that the responding officer who was on the passenger side was at danger, because we ended up seeing that his feet were actually planted on the ground. And so their claims that officer would have been swept away had Dante Wright drove off were refuted based on that evidence. But I want you guys to take a listen from this clip yesterday. This is Special Agent Brent Peterson.
Right there.
Pause. What did you observe?
It appeared to me in watching this that there was a manipulation in some way of her holster.
Why would you do that?
It would just make drawing the firearm easier, more efficient.
Okay.
And so we heard an elaboration on that today as well from Commander Garrett. This, the details, right, of where do you keep your gun? Where do you keep your taser? And what Special Agent Brent Peterson pointed out there was that Kimberly Potter actually had her holster twisted, and the position that she had it made it easier for her to draw her gun.
That's it. Right. And that shows, we're reluctant at times to just call a thing, right? A lot of times these officers go into these incidents with the desire to get them some, right? And we understand that that's part of the nature. That's the culture. That's how they're trained. They're going out there to get some. And when they say get some, they mean some lives. They mean to get some collars. They mean to get some action. If nothing else, we can agree that they mean to get some action. And it looks like Kim Potter was poised perfectly for action with her holster perfectly positioned for quick action. Doesn't sound like a mistake to me.
And today they detailed the cross draw technique, the reactionary draw technique, and they even went back and looked at body camera footage and different dash cam footage of other responding instances where Kimberly Potter had her taser in the same position. And so I do think the prosecution in this case is doing a really good job of detailing just how meticulous Kimberly Potter had been with her weapons, and how in most cases she had them in the same posture every time. But there's been a few things they've been able to point out. There is a check-in that you're supposed to do. She missed that check-in for 2 days. That could also play a factor in her negligence. And so, Ben, I'm curious for you. I know you've been following this as well. Some people have criticized the prosecution and they felt like they've dropped the ball in some cases. Do you think that they've been doing a good job in presenting the facts and making a case to prove that Kimberly Potter is guilty? Because ultimately, the burden of proof, it rests on the prosecution.
That's right. Right. The state has to do their job. And, I have to say yes and no, because here's the thing. I do believe that they are presenting the evidence as they have it, and they're trying to be aggressive with it. And I think that they're doing as good a job as they can. Watch this. And within the framework of a system that they're not willing to challenge. Right? They're not going to challenge some of these underlying biases that are structured in this system. They're not going to challenge how Dante Wright is now on trial versus Kim Potter, right? They're not going to challenge some of those things that really would get to the core of why Dante Wright was killed. And those things find themselves right there in that courtroom. So I have to say yes and no. They're presenting the evidence as they have it. I think they're doing it aggressively, but they would not dare challenge that framework because that would make all their other cases against Black men problematic.
Yeah, and I would have to agree. The thing that really disturbed me when watching this trial and seeing some of the evidence and learning more facts about what actually transpired. And I know for those of you guys who have been following along, you've heard me say this already, but the fact that that officer who witnessed the crash jumped out and drew his gun on a dying man and held that gun there, held him at hostage for 8.5 minutes.
That's right.
I mean, I just feel like your point about challenging the system is so accurate in this situation, because, you know, for the murder of George Floyd, which I feel like in many cases is likely to be an outlier within this system, the way that that case was prosecuted, you know, but there was not, it wasn't just Chauvin that was prosecuted or charged, right? The other 3 officers were waiting for their trial to begin here, both on a state and federal level. But in this instance, I feel like the same thing could be true for other responding officers to this scene that played a role in the death of Dante Wright. But we're only in this case seeing one officer charged. I mean, from the tampering of evidence with Sergeant Johnson switching guns to this other officer holding his gun on a dying man for 8.5 minutes, all of these things have played a role in the death of Dante Wright.
Right. And if they did their job, right, if the pursuit was actually justice, then they would have to flesh out every single one of those issues that you mentioned. Why are those officers not arrested and charged? Obstruction of justice, right? Why are those officers not facing charges? It's because if they did that, then that would undermine every single case that the prosecutors ever have had in the history of prosecution in this country. And we know they're not going to go there, not in the pursuit of actual justice.
For those of you just joining, the Kimberly Potter trial right now is at recess. The judge has allowed the jurors to go to lunch for the day. They are expected to be back in court around about 1:30 Central Time, 2:30 Eastern. We are examining evidence and testimony that has been presented this far. We know the prosecution is expected to wrap up their case. The judge has projected that this trial will come to a close before Christmas. But some of the things that we are anticipating, we know that the defense is going to call an expert witness who is going to talk about the slips and capture theory. It is a psychology theory about human error. And we expect this defense witness to testify that Kimberly Potter had a slips and capture moment where she, you know, mistook her gun for her taser. Ben, I think this is significant because when you examine other officer involved shootings like Oscar Grant, and there's a few others back even dating 2009, this slips and capture theory has been used to argue the defense of officers using fatal force. And it's interesting because it's usually only used when an officer mistakes their gun for their taser. However, there hasn't been significant research done. There hasn't been any, you know, science behind this theory. And so the fact that the judge is allowing this testimony to be entered in before the jury, I think is problematic in and of itself.
Yeah. No, you know, Georgia, I'm as I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about the entire framework of what's happening around us. I have to agree with you. The frustrating thing about this and the reservation in my voice is that this country has become really adept at giving us the appearance, the spectacle of justice. And, at the end of this, no matter what happens, it's almost like they wipe their hands and say, good game. We played the game of justice. And we see so many times at the end of it, we come up empty-handed. That's because the system is precisely designed to do exactly those things that you were saying.
Well, and it's frustrating to accept that as our reality. And I think that's why so many people, not just in our nation, but globally, stood up after the world saw the murder of George Floyd. And the world was demanding a more equitable judicial system for people who look like you and me.
That's right.
And I feel like this case is a continuation of that pursuit for real justice, right? And in the words of Katie Wright, she has said that even if Kimberly Potter is found guilty, that is not justice, it's accountability. Right. True justice, in the words of Katie Wright, the mother of Dante Wright, she says true justice would be living in a society where this would never happen in the first place.
That's right.
And so how do we advance as a nation? How do we advance as a society where we are living in a world where we have public safety systems, police departments that do not reach even for their taser in these moments? How do we advance to a place as a nation, as a society where even, intense situations, you have responding officers who don't think to draw their gun and hold it there for 8.5 minutes while a man is dying right before your eyes?
Right. Georgia, you're hitting on the key thing right there, right? Because it's almost the spectacle of and the appearance of justice becomes a game to everyone else. Meanwhile, the families have to live with the reality that their loved one is never coming back. True justice is this not happening in the first place. My sister, Noah Changa, she's a friend of the show. She says it like this. She said that true justice is not killing us in the first place. And I wonder what all the prosecutors have to relinquish. What tricks, what schemes, what little shenanigans have they been playing all these years? What they have to relinquish in order to get true justice. And so, no, I don't think the prosecution is actually doing a good job when we think of it in terms of true justice.
Well, I thought it was interesting that the team on this case was much smaller and much less diverse. When you parallel this to the Derek Chauvin trial, you had Blackwell, who actually, that was his first criminal case that he prosecuted. And he did a phenomenal job. And I think a lot of people were expecting that same energy for this trial. And instead, you have Matthew Frank, who is, for the most part, leading alongside Keith Ellison. But, it feels largely, even outside of this trial, when you think about the moment that we're in, the momentum has started to slow down. Being here in Minneapolis, in the Twin Cities area, knowing that this happened just 15, 20 minutes away from George Floyd, and how the world, it felt like the world stopped after George Floyd.
That's right.
Everybody was watching the Derek Chauvin trial. And that's why everybody knew about Dante Wright, because this happened in the middle of it. But now it feels as though, people they're ready to move on. These corporations that have made all of these equity pledges and all of these economical pledges, they're starting to put this behind them. People don't want to continue to have this conversation, this reckoning, right, about police accountability. One of the people in the chat, said, it's Richard Morgan. He said the police were never designed for us.
That's right.
That hasn't changed. But what has changed? And when you examine what has changed, a lot of the ideas and the hopes that we were reaching for in those moments post George Floyd, it feels like we didn't really accomplish all of the things we'd hoped to.
Because the enemy understands battle fatigue. It understands that real change requires a level of commitment that is easily to deter us from it because we're so tired, because there's so many instances, there's so many absurdities, there's so many different ways that they attack us and so many different sides. We're attacked on every side, quite honestly. And so people are fatigued, but that's a part of the strategy. Their strategy is to just wear us down. But, like my grandmother says, we ain't tired yet.
And then, when I reflect on the Chauvin trial, I think the defining moment of that trial was when Chief Arredondo took the stand and he testified against Chauvin. And he talked about how the technique Chauvin used was not an approved technique. And in so many ways, people detailed that as, breaking the what was it, blue code of silence, or whatever it was. In this trial, people should be aware that that is not going to be the case in the Kimberly Potter trial. We know that Kimberly Potter's former boss, the former chief of police, is going to take the stand and he is going to testify on behalf of Kimberly Potter's actions. What we're expecting him to say is that not only was Kimberly Potter justified for using her taser in that situation, because that's what she's saying she thought she had, but the former chief of police is going to say that he would justify her using her gun in that situation. And I'm pulling this from opening statements. If you guys remember, on the first day, the defense in their opening statements alluded to that. They alluded to the fact that Tim Bannon is going to take the stand and he's going to say that he would permit his officer using a gun in that situation.
Right. Because they can't let the precedent be set that a black life actually has value, that they have to take a pause and moment and consider whether or not they're using their taser or their gun. Black life is not even worth that consideration to this chief. To the chief, he's saying, no, I want my officers to be so rabid that they don't take in consideration whether or not they're pulling their taser or their gun. Because if he were to turn coat and break that blue wall of silence and actually pursue justice, then he knows that he would be probably indicted as well.
I've had to really wrestle with the constitutional rights that we are supposed to have and what value that really has in our society. As a journalist and as a journalist who has covered a lot of protests, Ben, because, as a journalist, you are protected. You're supposed to be protected under the First Amendment, and as a protester as well. What we saw even on the first day of this trial, on the first day of jury selection, I was in the courtroom and I hadn't even stepped outside that courthouse for 5 minutes before hearing and seeing and getting text messages that a car had just drove through the protesters who were outside standing in solidarity with Daunte Wright's family. Ben, when we followed up on this story, the Minneapolis Police Department said that despite having the license plate number given to them by the protesters, they would not be following up with this man who drove his vehicle through the protest. They said that because the protest did not have a permit, the man who drove through the protest was not breaking any laws. He had not committed a crime. And, if you have the constitutional right to be out there and protest, there should be some level of protection. And even if you don't, you think about reckless driving, if I'm driving responsibly and I'm sober, if I see a crowd of people, I'm not going to accelerate.
That's right.
I'm going to either stop or I'm going to go in reverse. I'm going to turn around. I'm not going to drive. I'm not going to plow into a crowd of people that is reckless driving. So how can you say that no crime had been committed because the protest wasn't permitted? And so we continuously, in this community, we continuously see this back and forth, this tug of war, this, push and pull for people who are standing up for Black life and people who are standing against the advocacy for Black life. We in this community have actually seen a lot of change and progress just simply due to protesting. Kimberly Potter was not facing 2 charges to begin with. That came after protesters continuously showed up to the home of the original prosecutor in this case. And based on several protests demanding actually murder charges, that's when this case was handed off to the attorney general and when they brought forth more severe charges. So we have example after example of the proof that people have the power. People can stand up. Even, let's be clear, a month ago, this trial wasn't even going to be live streamed. Protesters showed up to the home of the judge, and within 48 to 30, between I think 48 and 72 hours, she decided to allow this trial to be live streamed.
That's right. That's right. All power to the people.
So, Ben, as we prepare to have this trial transition, the prosecution will be resting their case. Are there anything, is there anything that's coming up for you? Anything that you're anticipating from the defense?
I'm anticipating the complete and total assassination of the character of Daunte Wright. I expect them to go above and beyond. I expect them to be as craven and savage as the defense that we saw in the Ahmaud Arbery murderers trial, where they talked about Ahmaud Arbery's dirty toes. So I would ask that everyone who is of good faith and good conscience to brace yourself, because it's about to get ugly.
Yeah. And, we I think, have seen the prosecution try to get ahead of that. Some people accuse the prosecution of assassinating Daunte's character, but I think in some regard, they try to be strategic and they try to get ahead of some of that information. I mean, they've already outlined, that he had a warrant. They've outlined that there was an order for protection. They've talked about the marijuana shake that was found in the vehicle. So I feel like the prosecution has tried to get ahead of it. I will be curious to see if the defense tries to bring up anything maybe that we have not heard of yet. They tried to allude to the fact that potentially this young woman that you're seeing here was the woman who had filed the order for protection against Daunte. But in fact, we learned that she had only known Daunte for a few weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if the defense tries to go down that road, detailing where the order for protection came from, why it was there, potentially detailing why there was a warrant, what that encounter was. But if that happens, to be balanced, it seems as though the prosecution should be allowed to bring in maybe previous stops that Kimberly Potter had. There was some information I'm still working to verify that surfaced online where you saw Kimberly Potter giving instructions to officers after an officer-involved shooting to turn off their body cameras, to get in their cars, to not speak to each other. Instructions that didn't feel like necessarily aligned with the BCA's investigation protocols. So if we're going to dig up pasts, then I think the prosecution should be allowed to dig up the past of Kimberly Potter and show how she's responded in other cases of fatal shootings. In the Chauvin trial, where it felt like in that case, Ben, everybody was certain that Chauvin was going to be found not guilty. And those who thought he would be found guilty definitely did not think he would be found guilty on all charges.
For sure.
You couldn't show me one person in America that thought Chauvin was going to be found guilty on all charges. There was nobody on this planet, even I would say, that thought he would be found guilty on all charges. And so in these trials, we just really don't know how these cases are going to go. And every day we hear more testimony. Every day we get more evidence presented, and we even learn more about the case. So for those of you who have been following along, I'm going to ask this question again, because there has been new testimony brought forth. Do you think Kimberly Potter is going to be found guilty on both charges, on one charge? Do you think she'll be found not guilty? Share your thoughts here in the comments, please. Outside of that, I'm curious, Ben, do you think that the prosecution's request, if she's found guilty, the prosecution has been asking for a stricter sentence? Do you think the prosecution will get that stricter sentence?
I'm not sure, Georgia. We have to see which of the two counts she's guilty of, because I think I agree with your assessment. I'm not really sure if they're going to get her on both, not because she's not deserving, but because of how things may very well play out. I think it's going to be dependent on which of the two charges she's found guilty of. But other than that, I really don't have much hope to, I'm not really sure how this is going to play out.
We are expecting that court will be resuming here momentarily. As I said, we have some tabs open, so we're keeping an eye in the courtroom. As soon as there's some activity there, we're going to switch back to live coverage of this trial. For those of you also following along, please feel free to leave in the comments what you think the outcome on this trial will be. I'd be curious to hear from you also if you think some of the other responding officers in this case should be charged as well. Specifically, the officer who drew his gun for 8.5 minutes and failed to render aid because of that. But we're expecting them to resume any moment now. So we're just going to go ahead and transition there. Ben, thank you so much for joining me. All of you guys who are watching, thank you so much for watching the Kimberly Potter trial here.
Good morning, people. Y'all know the voice, y'all know the sound. It's the boy DJ Exclusive James. Bubba Mac DJ Exclusive. We know it's DJ Mac Exclusive. I don't know who that is. Dwayne, you know who that is? Good morning, everybody. Good morning, y'all. Come on in, get situated. Get settled, get your coffee, get your drink. Whatever it is you need to get your morning started. It's exclusive. Is it the
Get on with it. Come on, get on with it. Come on, get on with it. Come on, get on with it. It's what I say.
Everybody, good morning. Nicole Johnson, One Source Productions. Brother Chuck Diesel.
It's what I say.
Food Meat, Hollywood, Diesel. Christy Lionheart, good morning. Ryan, good morning. G-Man, Simpson, Socialist, Irish Jones. Tiger, what's going on? Church Lady Shelby Hall, good morning, y'all. I see y'all here. Shoot the Dragon, Muffin Stuff. Mark S, what's going on? Tyler, what's going on, Brother Tyler? Angela Newman, Nikki Cruz, thank you for your super chat. Ben going off this morning. Peace to the family. Amen to that. Melanie Dennis, Amber G, good morning, everybody. Kev Z, what's going on, brother? Y'all come on in, get situated, get settled, man. Afraid Not, what's going on? One Lost Spirit, what's going on, man? Good to see everybody this morning. I hope y'all had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend, holiday, and everything else. Hope y'all ate good and all that good stuff, man. Watch some good TV. Got some Black Friday shopping done, all of that good stuff, man. Y'all come on in and get situated, y'all. Good morning, the Benjamin Dixon Show, y'all. Stay tuned. Lily, good morning. Track Natasha, Roller Dragon, what's going on? A.R. Walker, Deb, what's going on? Kareem, Dragon Ball Super Dope. Good morning.
I don't want you, but I need you. I don't like you, but I love you.
Happy belated birthday to Church Lady. Brenda Johnson, good morning.
But I need you. I don't like you, but I love you. I don't want you, but I need you.
F8L Flaw Dragon, good morning. Patty P, good morning, Patty.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. It is Wednesday, December 15th, 2021. Thanks so much for joining us here at the Benjamin Dixon Show. We just got through listening to On the Clock with Georgia Ford and myself as we recap the Kimberly Potter trial. We will continue to keep our eyes on the developments as it pertains to that trial. Momentarily, I will be joined by a Los Angeles City Council member by the name of Mike Bonin, and we are going to be speaking about the program and the initiatives there in LA to help homelessness, the unique initiatives that are being headed up by some nonprofits in conjunction with the city. We'll be talking about that at 7:45 Central Standard Time, 8:45 Eastern Standard Time. That said, I want to begin again with January 6th. Yesterday, we covered the text messages that came from Laura Ingraham to Mark Meadows, text messages from Don Jr. to Mark Meadows, who's the chief of staff at the time of Donald Trump during the January 6th insurrection terrorist attack. Well, there are even more text messages. And as we can imagine, before we listen to this first clip, I want you to imagine the sheer volume of text messages that should be available to the committee, the January 6th committee. Just think about how if something goes down in your life and you start texting with the person who's responsible for it, you go back and forth about 100 times, if necessary. Now, imagine being the president of the United States and the host from Fox News have your email address or have your cell phone number and have the cell phone number of your chief of staff. That to me says that there is an enormous volume of text messages that should be up for consideration. Yesterday, we reviewed the first few of them. Let's take a look at this next clip as Liz Cheney, Representative Liz Cheney, a Republican, no fan, doing America no real favors, but she is succinctly breaking down the text messages so that we can clearly see the role that Fox News, as well as the conservative movement, elected officials this time, played in the January 6th communication. Let's take a look at it.
Mr. Meadows received numerous text messages that he has produced without any privilege claim urging President Trump to take action. I read a number of those last night to the nation. Here are a few others from Republican members. Quote, "It is really bad up here on the Hill." Another one, "The president needs to stop this ASAP." Another one, "Fix this now." And as we saw last night, dozens of texts, including from Trump administration officials, from members of the press, from Donald Trump Jr., urged immediate action by the president. But we know hours passed with no action by the president to defend the Congress of the United States from an assault while we were trying to count electoral votes.
And we certainly would not expect someone of the character of Donald Trump to ask his supporters to stand down. Let's be clear about that. Of course, Donald Trump was not going to come out forthrightly and tell his supporters to stand down when they came up there on his urging. You have to remember, before January 6th jumped off, Donald Trump spoke to that crowd. There's a clip somewhere, it's coming to my mind as I'm speaking, but there's a clip of Donald Trump speaking to the crowd before they set everything off. So, of course, Donald Trump is not going to tell his constituents, the people who would ride or die for him. These people will go to the very gates of hell for their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump. They will. So Donald Trump is committed to them. That's one thing. If Donald Trump is nothing else, he's loyal to the people who are sycophants and fans of his. Let's go to this next clip. This next clip is of Representative Mike Burgess of Texas, representative from Texas, Republican. He compares the participants in the January 6th attack to the 2010 protest against Obamacare. And this is what he said. He said, we've had bad protests here before. It's what we do here. OK, let's take a look.
We've had bad protests here at the Capitol before. I was here when the Affordable Care Act went through the legislative process. You don't think we had some really upset people outside the Capitol during those days? Of course we did. It's what we do here. But where was the preparation?
It's what we do here. I'm sure he's saying this is what white conservatives do here. Because let's be sure, white progressives could not get away with what happened on January 6th. I just want you to be sure, like Donald Trump actually sent federal agents to kill a white progressive by the name of Michael Reinhold, who acted in self-defense of a black man, right? Donald Trump sent federal agents to kill that man. There's no way in the world, and that man was white. There's no way in the world white progressives, white liberals, or black people of any persuasion could get away with the protest that you saw, the riot that you saw, the terrorist insurrection attack on January 6th. It just doesn't happen. So when I hear this Republican say this, clearly, there's no question, there's no bones about it. He is talking to a very specific type of white American. Not even you white liberals are included in this. Because if you go to the Capitol and protest on behalf of Medicare for all, the way they protested to overthrow this country, you won't make it back. And I don't care what color you are. If you go up there and you protest against the greed and the corruption of this economic system, I don't care what color you are, there's a good chance that you will not come back. So when this Republican is up there talking about we're used to this type of protest, be sure in 2010, the Tea Party protests against Obamacare were white aggrieved conservatives. So, yeah, he's right. America is used to the protests that come from people who simply have carte blanche privileges in this country and simply do not have to be concerned with trying to get justice from a system that would turn a blind eye to the terrorist attack of January 6th. We're talking about the whole of democracy here. We're not talking about differences in policy opinions. OK, we're not talking about whether or not you think the tax rate should be 15% for corporations or tax them at the same rate you tax income. Come on, somebody. We're not talking about those substantive arguments that we can have and that we can get qualitative or rather quantitative data on to see what is actually better performing. Those are disagreements that are worth having. We're talking about people who simply do not respect democracy. They don't respect democracy. And if they don't get their way, well, then the big lie was just a beginning. The big lie was to be followed by a slow coup. And if they get in power again in 2022, 2024, well, that coup is going to pick up a whole lot of steam. I want to take a look at this next clip. This is a clip of now Fox News. Fox News trying to do damage control.
And it's going to be D4, Ben.
We want D4 instead of D3. OK. Fox News doing damage control. And they rolled out Tucker Carlson, who takes the lead, as usual, for Fox News, covering up and making excuses. Let's take a listen to old Tuckums.
There was no racial angle to January 6th. What was January 6th? Well, there was destruction of property, which we're totally opposed to. But what motivated it? Why were all those people there? Well, for the most part, a year later, it's very clear January 6th was essentially what it appeared to be. Thousands of ordinary American citizens, voters, people who believe in our democracy far more fervently than Liz Cheney ever has, came to Washington because they sincerely believed democracy had been thwarted. They believed the presidential election was unfair, and they have a right to believe that. And by the way, in many ways, they were correct. The presidential election was unfair, and you don't have to get into anything about voting machines to believe that. But we also think that as you do that, if a mass of people show up angry at the Capitol, you should at least pause for a second if you believe in democracy and ask, what are they angry about? Maybe we should address their concerns. But Liz Cheney.
You know, before we go to the guests, I want to close out with this segment. There have to be more conservatives of good faith in this country that draw the line at least at democracy. That's the way I view Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney is saying, listen, I may not stand up for marginalized people. I may give corporations all the tax breaks they need. I may fully invest into not personally, but I will fully make sure that the military industrial complex is never challenged. But when it comes down to democracy, Liz Cheney is saying enough's enough. There has to be a few more good faith conservatives out there who will look at this situation and say that we are fighting for the entirety of our democracy. That said, let's shift gears. And I want to come down from the national level to the local level so we could talk about the very real condition that people are facing on a daily basis in this country. And that is the condition of homelessness. We are facing an epidemic when there are houses that can be filled. They're empty right now. When there are resources to take us to war, we have homelessness abounding in this country. And I have been fascinated by the work that's happening in Los Angeles with several nonprofits and the city council. And I want to bring to the conversation this morning City Council member Mike Bonin to discuss some of these policies that are happening in Los Angeles. But before we bring, and Mike, good morning to you. I want to introduce you, though, with an ad from you. And I normally don't play political ads, but I think when the audience sees this, they will understand why we wanted to introduce you properly with this clip. So, Dwayne, before we go into the conversation, would you run that clip?
I'm going to share some of my lived experience. Most of you know, I think all of you know, I'm a recovering addict and alcoholic. I have not been shy about sharing that experience. What I don't share as openly or as frequently about is my experience being unhoused. Some of those nights, I slept in my car, and a few of those nights, when my car was in the shop, I slept on the beach. I can't tell you how much turmoil there is in your heart when the sun is setting and you don't know where you can sleep. I can't adequately express the combination of shame and frustration and anger and desperation and confusion you feel in that moment. Imagine you're sitting there all day, your face is sunburned, and you are dead dog tired. You haven't had a moment to relax and to drop your guard and just to exhale. We are all fragile. We are all breakable and often break. And that we all stumble and fall down, and that we often need somebody to help us up. Yes, we have created more housing units and created more shelter beds and more interventions than ever before. But despite all that, we still do not have enough units or enough beds. And it has not been easy. Hell, I haven't got just protests, I've got lawsuits and appeals that have tried to stop or slow down everything I've tried to do. I've gotten calls from millionaires, I've gotten attacks from the police union. I've had people say, I hope your family suffers. You know what? It's okay. Because today, when I go home, I know where I can sleep. I don't have that feeling of not knowing. When I go home tonight, no matter what else, I know where I can sleep. And everybody in Los Angeles deserves to know that.
Councilmember Mike Bonin, good morning to you. Thank you for getting up so early there on the West Coast, and thank you for joining us. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, bright and early. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
The pleasure is ours. That ad is touching, and I really think you nailed it. It's the realization that you don't have a place to rest your head when that sun goes down that really strikes at the heart of all of the homeless and unhoused populations. Tell us about your journey from being unhoused to leading the charge against homelessness.
Well, when I got to Los Angeles in my early 20s, like so many people, the reality of Los Angeles didn't match up to my dreams. And I fell into drugs and was doing a lot of meth, and I wound up on some hard times. And I was able, through sobriety, to get my life back and to turn it around. And that's been sort of a touchstone for me, in that I know that we can all stumble and we all fall down, but I also know that big, huge transformation is possible, and people can change their lives, and nobody is beyond help. And we owe it to each other to help each other. And in LA, we're in the middle of a dystopian crisis. I mean, if for most of your listeners who aren't from LA, in LA County, there are 60,000 people who are homeless, and 70% of them are unsheltered every night. 4 or 5 people are dying on our streets every day. There are tents, encampments on streets in almost every neighborhood, in front of homes, businesses, schools, parks, everywhere. I mean, it is end of times scenarios here. And we're sort of at a point in LA where we're either going to do what we know works, which is house people and give them services, or we're going to double down on the stupid, expensive, failed strategies we've done for decades, which is try to push the problem away and criminalize it.
I look at, I'm trying not to nationalize the conversation because there are local solutions to some of these problems, right? Tell us about some of the solutions that you all are taking there on the city council in partnership with nonprofits, innovations that you all have to address these situations.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot that we're doing locally to demonstrate that there is a way to house people quickly, but I'll keep it nationalized, actually, because things have changed because of what's been changing nationally. We've had in the past year, during the pandemic, the city temporarily stopped breaking up encampments because CDC said, all you're going to do is make people sicker. You're going to spread disease. Don't do this. The federal government gave us money to instead lease motel rooms and put people at the government's dime into motel rooms temporarily. Program has been a mixed success, and the city has not nearly availed itself as fully as it could have from it. But as a result of the pandemic, hundreds, thousands of more people were visibly homeless living in our parks. Over the summer, St. Joseph Center, a local nonprofit, and the Homeless Services Authority worked with me, and we helped move 213 people indoors into temporary housing through these motel programs. But the federal government, thanks to the new administration, has made permanent housing resources available, these 10-year vouchers. So we were able to get folks into temporary housing, and now we have a pathway to get them into permanent housing. So if 213 people who came indoors in August, 55 of them are already in permanent housing. That's a faster clip than LA has done before. We have another park in my district near LAX where working with people assisting the homeless and a group called Grassroots Neighbors, just neighborhood volunteers who do outreach in the park. 90 people were moved indoors just last month. 11 of them are already in permanent housing. What it's about is busting the myth that people who are homeless deserve to be homeless or choose to be homeless. And instead of pushing them from one neighborhood to another, and we have a sheriff who's wandering around the city doing that, other council members who are doing that, our thing is let's get people not just a temporary place to stay, but a long-term place to stay. So they know we're not pushing them around. And that's where lives begin to change. And that's when you begin to see a visible difference on our streets.
Tell us a little bit more about that 10-year voucher. That's the distinct difference. I mean, that is long-term housing. That gives you a chance to get your entire world shifted. When did that program become accessible to the public, and how else are you all rolling it out?
That has become available because of Biden and the Democratic Congress as part of the COVID recovery programs they passed. They made these vouchers available. They're emergency housing vouchers that came about as a result of response to the COVID pandemic. And it's sort of like a lottery ticket in some ways, a winning lottery ticket, because the missing resource has always been the long-term housing. You know, you can put somebody in a shelter, that gets them out of sight, but that just keeps them homeless in a less visible manner. You have to find long-term housing. These vouchers do that, but it's still tricky. You still have to find a unit for someone. You still have to find a landlord willing to accept it. So it's still hard work, even from that point, but it really has been a game changer from what we've experienced before.
Councilmember Bonin, I'm listening to you. I look at your ad. I see your passion, more importantly, your compassion. But I heard that there's a recall effort against you. What did you do to make these people want to recall you?
Well, there's a couple different things. I'm, arguably the most progressive member of the LA City Council, and the sort of right-wing tool of choice in California these days, whether it's progressive prosecutors in San Francisco or in Los Angeles, our governor, or even lefty council members up in Seattle. The right-wing tool of choice on the West Coast has been recalls. And my recall is being run and managed by right-wing operatives from Orange County and from Utah. The forces behind it are people who have sued and appealed and protested to stop homeless housing in my district, people who don't want solutions in my district, which is a wealthier coastal area. People don't want to see solutions there. And there's also a big part of it, though, is I've been, the council is probably the council's most outspoken supporter of Black Lives Matter and reimagining public safety, and the police union, Conservative Talk Radio. They have all rallied behind this recall and are really making the argument that homelessness equals crime, and progressives are the cause of both of those things.
Right. That is the game. And I love the way that you framed it. I mean, it's the reality, but I think that's the way we should frame it across the country, that the tool of choice in California is the recall effort. We saw that with Governor Gavin Newsom surviving against the right-wing ideologue, Larry Elder. So, and it seems like we go through this every so many years in California, and they are targeting you as one of the most progressive people on that council. I want you to leave us with your vision, specifically for homelessness. How would you, if you had a magic wand, how would you address the issue of homelessness? The floor is yours.
Well, thanks. Let me say two things about that. We're now entering election season in Los Angeles. I'm simultaneously up for re-election and probably facing a recall. Half of the city council is up for re-election. We have an open mayor's race. I think that the next 6 or 8 months in Los Angeles is going to be a citywide referendum on how we approach homelessness. Are we going to do what we know works, which is housing and services? Works for everybody. Housed and unhoused, encampments disappear, people's lives are saved? Or are we going to double down on the stupid, cruel, expensive, and ineffective policies that criminalize people and make homelessness worse and push it around? I think that's the central question in Los Angeles. I am going to stand firmly that we need to do the former, that we need to use housing and services. And what I propose is that we continue to use the federal money with these vouchers, that we continue to use state money that allows us to purchase hotels, that we purchase or lease apartment buildings, that we get people off the street right away. It is doable. I won't say I'm overwhelmingly optimistic given some of the political dynamics, but it is absolutely doable. I think people are hungry for it. It's the right thing to do, and it's the effective thing to do. And I hope that my campaign, either the re-election or the recall, can be a rallying point for this smart, effective, compassionate response to homelessness.
Absolutely. LA City Council member Mike Bonin, thank you so much for joining us. I am hoping once this pandemic and this Omicron variant chills out a little bit, I want to come over and see all the things that you are doing there, because I think we could replicate that across this country. And I thank you guys for taking the lead on that.
That's great. Love to have you. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. When we come back, Rebecca Azor is in the house. Like it or not, is going down. Until then, Dwayne, take us to a break. We'll be back right after this.
No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No, no, no. No, you just can't hurt me. No, you just can't hurt me. No. See, it's hard to be polite. It's easy being petty. Mama used to tell me, gotta use
y'all, I forgot to tell y'all, I met Tom Hanks once. I did. I met Tom Hanks. He said he was rude as hell, though. He was just so rude. I asked for an autograph, and all he wrote was thanks.
So be a light up on my path and a lamp under my feet. I know my faith strong, but my flesh still kind of weak. When that victory be looking like the verge of defeat.
So many people here. Watch what I say.
Turn my other cheek and say sticks and stones may break my bones, but your words can't hurt me.
Oh, y'all get it now, don't y'all?
Been right more than I've been wrong, and it still can't hurt me. No, it just can't hurt me. No.
Hey, y'all, also, I learned how to use disposable masks, like coffee masks or filters to brew espresso. I learned to use disposable masks to brew espresso because they're coffee filters. Coffee filters? Today in the background talking about they might shut this channel down. Man, go to hell today.
It was just a misunderstanding.
Y'all know I ain't got no damn sense, man. Y'all leave me alone. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Our sister from another mister be joining us soon.
No, I checked your number twice, then I went home. But I wanted
Okay, this is the last one. This is for my nerds out there. This is good for the nerds. How did Bilbo survive the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy? How did Bilbo survive the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy? Because all hobbits die hard.
I meant everything I said. You don't have to search no more.
Laura Strada, good morning.
You don't have to prove us to anyone. You don't need to worry.
All right, y'all. Well, we got our little Caribbean vibe going on. Jamaica, December, yeah. All right, new patrons. We have Alex Z and Mark S, our new patrons, new Twitch subscribers. We have the Chicken Fried Dragon, who gifted a subscription to Carpe Pax and Antisocial Communists. We have Cluminati017, who resubscribed with Prime and commented, for the culture. That's right, for the culture. We appreciate you. Class Storm resubscribed. Andy from Ohio resubscribed. Hey, Andy. And said, hello. Miss you, Andy. Love you. Mimosa Dragon resubscribed and commented, good morning, everyone. And they have been subscribed for over 10 months. I feel you, Mimosa Dragon. Love you, mean it. Fellow content creator at ActTV James from the internet resubscribed and commented, well, what about her free speech?
You don't need to
her free speech? I gotta find out what it means, but free speech, yeah. And also, an anonymous user gifted a subscription to Neon Death 07. So, anonymous user, we greatly appreciate you, man. We appreciate everybody, man. And if you want to as well, patreon.com/likeItOrNot, patreon.com/likeItOrNot, or patreon.com/the BPD show, so you can get exclusive content, laugh at my silly ass, get patron party access, all that good stuff, man. So make sure that you're going to take your ass down on over there and get on that Patreon. You don't want to miss it. Miss all this. Next patron party next week, if I'm not mistaken. Next patron party is next Friday. We're going to see what we're going to... Oh, is that Black Friday? I think it is. We'll have to see about that. Well, y'all stay tuned and we'll keep you posted, all right? Here's another banger for y'all. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all light them up, light them up. Shout out to Brother Ben, who's out there doing the work, man. We appreciate you, brother. I'll be looking for you on the TV today. Lunch break hot take. Good morning to you. Susan, good morning.
Look, I'm in line with the stars, I'm in sync with the earth. 10 toes deep, flower child from the turf. I never switch sides, like even when I die, I'm a ride for the squad, let her ties in the hearse. I've been on the vibe, kinda hard to describe. I'm in between, I'm good and it's fine, but I'm tired of the grind. Then I come alive in the night to realize I'm in the middle.
Elizabeth Lonzo, good morning.
I never so packed for the stack, never lied on the rap. Got a bag from the way that I write it. Queen looking Tyson, do that I survived, doing 80 to the house, then I hit it to the sky. Change haters on the tirade, talking to the crib in the face, be still, let that hate stuff fade. We all with the same, we all want a meal in the safe. I wanna live like I'm trying to reach enlightenment. Drill spill from my lips, feel big from the bit, take a sip till I pass out. Try and get grit, but it don't make sense, cause you can lose life on this fast ride. Yeah, turn thoughts to a cash cow. I might flip that to the glass house. I don't need the accolades, I'm in love with the chase. I just wanna eat, save a spot at the table. Beast with the slap, pin myself on the map. You long with the wind, but we knowing that it's cap. 5-hour flights, couple nights at the flat. To be real, couldn't see me making moves while I'm at. I'm still on the grind, limit time when I chat. Burn it down, sage, keep the demons away. When I write it, give a piece of myself to the page. I don't do it for the praise, love, that's just how I'm made.
From the glass in the mirror, do it at me, old man, tryna pass in the fear. You're the first one to talk, but the last one to hear. Eyes blurry, but I couldn't see that.
I appreciate you.
Start to feel like I'm on one. Settle in, I'll be here for the long run. I'm a slave for the cash, got snakes in the grass, no brakes on the end. But
Shoot the Dragon, that's a good one. Real quick, y'all, real quick. Shoot the Dragon said, what is black and rhymes with Snoop? What is black and rhymes with Snoop? Answer, Dr. Dre. These are facts.
Hear him talking, they ain't right enough, tighten up. Everything that I came for, I left it. I don't bang sets, I just bang on the set list. Going past everywhere I came for the breaks.
If I remember the coffee house right, I'm that lovable kind of snuggy teddy bear kind of
thing. Gold in my soul, got the same on the necklace.
Say that's absolutely right. It's a mini patron party with non-copyrighted music. Hey, a man walks into the doctor's office all panicked. Doctor, I'm shrinking. What's going on? Help me. The doctor replies, well, sir, you're going to have to learn to be a little patient. A little damn patient like Ben. Shout out to my brother, man, from another mother.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning. Good. She is frozen.
No, she's definitely lost. She's frozen.
Good morning. Go to the welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. This is what happens when technology has a hiccup in the middle of a live broadcast. We had Rebecca Azor, but her FAMU internet took her out right as we were getting ready to say good morning. But welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. While Rebecca Azor reboots her internet, I want us to begin again with Fox News covering January 6th. This next clip is right where we left off. It's another clip of Tucker Carlson, but this time Tucker Carlson is specifically making an excuse for Fox News to try to make it seem as though, no, they did not lie to their audience. Well, one, we know Fox News lies to their audience every single night. There's no question about that. But specifically as it pertains to January 6th, let's look at how Tuckums weasels his way around the truth coming out now that Fox News host Laura Ingraham and others absolutely, and Brian Kilmeade specifically, absolutely knew that January 6th was because of Donald Trump. Let's take a listen into Tucker Carlson lie with a straight face.
If you get a text from Brian Kilmeade, it sounds pretty much identical to Brian Kilmeade on Fox and Friends. These are not phonies. We can personally confirm that. Whether you like them or not, they're real.
Please get him on TV. Destroying everything you have accomplished, Brian Kilmeade texted.
I do not know Trump supporters that have ever demonstrated violence that I know of in a big situation.
Quote, Mark, the president needs to tell people in the Capitol to go home. This is hurting all of us. He is destroying his legacy. Laura Ingraham.
An overwhelming majority of them, more than 99% had to be, were peaceful.
Quote, can he make a statement? Ask people to leave the Capitol, Sean Hannity urged.
And we had the reports that groups like Antifa, other radical groups, I don't know the names of all of them, that they were there to cause trouble.
In a weak attempt to smear yours truly, and presumably, I guess, President Trump, Congresswoman Cheney presented one of my text messages from January 6th to Mark Meadows. Surprise, surprise, surprise. I said to Mark Meadows the exact same thing I was saying live on the radio at that time and on TV that night on January 6th and well beyond January 6th. And by the way, where is the outrage in the media over my private text messages being released again publicly? Do we believe in privacy in this country? Apparently not. I am an honest, straightforward person. I say the same thing in private that I say to all of you. Liz Cheney knows this. She doesn't seem to care. She's interested in one thing and one thing only, smearing Trump and purging him from the party.
Does that sound like I was downplaying it to you? Now, but it was not an insurrection. To say anything different is beyond dishonest, and it ignores the facts of that day.
Welcome back. And good morning to you, Rebecca Azor. Laura, Fox News, man, those people are devils. I've never seen so many people happily and giddily just lie. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm good. Did we do the good morning already? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did it. We did all that, and I let them know it was your FAMU internet that was kind of giving us a little problem.
It wasn't the internet. My computer just blacked out for some reason, fully charged. So crazy, but yeah,
it's crazy. How you doing this morning?
I'm good.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's on your schedule? What's on your radar this morning?
Nothing. What we talking about? These liars over there at Fox. And
them liars over at Fox. Yeah.
Yeah. They talking about the terrorists, the domestic terrorists over there.
January 6th.
On January 6th. They saying that it wasn't a terrorist attack.
They saying not all. They saying it all.
They've been
on air. They're saying it wasn't. Behind the scenes, they were horrified.
I'm just messing with Rebecca. I'm just seeing how she doing this morning.
Oh, I'm good. No, I'm good. It's been a rough morning, but I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Not like a rough morning where like it was a bad morning. It was just a rough morning getting started here, but we got it together. We're good.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's a morning. It's a morning. We should have more mornings off. I tell you, it's the holiday season. I don't know why we're clocking so many hours this week and next week. But next week, I think we're just going to take. What week is Christmas? Next week is Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm. It's Christmas on the weekend.
It's on the. What?
See?
How many days you want to take off next week, Rebecca?
Yeah, it's on Friday, which is the weekend for me. But how many? I don't know. Listen,
Well, definitely Thursday. Definitely don't look for us Thursday or Friday. Clearly, right? So we're not going to get Thursday, Friday.
Whoever is listening and watching, just know that ain't come from me. That did not come from me. That came from Benjamin P. Dixon.
They really do. You know, and I love our audience. I love all of you so much because they really do get upset when we don't stream, when we take a day off, or even when we do a best of episode. They're like, it was the best of because I watched it at the time. Where's my new stuff?
Right. Get it out of here. What is this? Are these people live? Like, it's so funny.
See, Ben says that he loves the audience and how upset they get. But guess who has to post the bad news every time?
That's what I pay you for, Davey. That's what I got you for, man. The best person. Listen, if you're going to break bad news
and try to spin it,
if you're going to break bad news to a diverse group of people, send in a white man. They, everybody. No, anyway, I'm joking. All right, let's get back. We don't honestly have to get back on target with these subjects. I know there's a lot of other things that are happening, and we got a whole lot of other stories to cover. I'm tired of talking about Tucker and Fox News. They're going to be there next week and the week after. What else is happening in the world? In your world, Rebecca, you got a story for us? What's up?
Well,
and where is? I know James is on. I'm sorry.
He's on vacation, baby.
He's still on vacation for real. I knew James was not going to be here this week.
Me too. That's why I didn't say anything when he was trying to say, "Yeah, I'm gonna be there." I'm like,
okay, in Jamaica.
And then I had to speak for him, like, y'all were like, James is gonna be. He is not gonna be here. He's on vacation.
No, James is not gonna be here this week. I appreciate the thought. I appreciate the effort. I'm sure he took his equipment just like he said, but
and when he got there, he was like, "Hell, I'm on vacation." And that's the thing. So remember that when I go on vacation, see how I went on vacation? I was like, I gotta go on a Thursday so that I can make it back for Monday or Tuesday to make sure that I do at least 3-4 days on the show. Because Ben gonna be like, "Don't be missing all these days on the show." Now this is like what, a week and a half we ain't seen Bubba, and that's all right because he's on vacation as it should be. But just remember that. Thank you. Thank you.
Rebecca, you take your vacation like 15 minutes at a time every day. 15 minutes at a time.
No,
30
that's
minutes.
That's to throw my wig on. That is to put some kind of makeup on my face so I don't look like what you've
been through
is the sleep lines and the seeds in my eye. And I be trying to get myself together. So to make sure I come on here and look appropriate. I don't get to just, oil up my scalp, because I ain't got no hair and just slap on some oil on top of that and just kind of like comb out my beard or whatever. I
go through a process. I go through a process every morning to prepare for the show. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I go outside and I meditate and I commune with the universe and I do my yoga and then I read some headlines and then I'm reading our notes from the night before. So I don't just get to roll over just because I'm bald and I ain't got to put a wig on.
Yeah.
Rebecca Azor.
Yeah, no, but those are cute things that you do in the morning. It's part of your regimen to make sure that you have a good morning, which I also have. I make sure I listen to some R&B or some gospel or some neo soul. I work out in the morning. Mm-hmm. I tell myself today is going to be a good day. Nobody's bald-headed son is going to annoy me this morning. Lord, no bad energy, God. People that are blocked will stay in the block.
Why are you talking about? I know you're talking about me and James because you don't normally like all the guys I know that you sons messing with, they ain't bald. So why you coming for me and James bald headed behind this morning?
You, James, David, and Dwayne. Okay? Bubba be on my good side, but all three of y'all it's just.
Well, we can get. I'm like you about to say we can kiss her.
No, but we all have our morning regimens that we do every morning, and that's what helps me in the morning. The thing is, I don't have this set up because it's not a good aesthetic in my kitchen. I'm in my kitchen. Well, I'm on the other side. I'm in the living room, and this stuff is in my kitchen. So I always have to break it down because this is also where I work when I get off the show. This is also my work area.
You've been breaking down your setup every day for this last year.
Yeah, I got to break it down, and then I got to set up and put my computer and monitors here to work for the corporate.
You better get you an avatar.
An avatar?
Yeah, like my avatar.
No.
Just use your voice.
Because I like for people to see me. It's like, it gets weird when I'm just...
It takes me too long. I am not setting up this equipment every day. This is why I'm in my mother's closet for the holidays, and I'm not moving nothing. I'm going to start making
I'm going to make a GIF of Ben.
Yes.
A GIF of Ben.
We talking? We need the movement. We need the movement, and we need...
I'll do some basic movements. I'll just do this, that, and laugh.
They need my nails. They need They need the attitude. They need all of that in one. Like, they need to see what the hair is looking like. Is it a full today? Is it nice today? They need all of that because, you know.
Did you say, is it a full today?
Yeah, is it a fool? A fool. Now, I know, because y'all know when I wear a hat, y'all lucky I even pinned this good wig on. Because maybe I was about to give y'all a hat.
A couple bumps in it.
A hat with no kind of structure, no nothing. It was about to be a fool. But I say, nah, you know what?
Like them hats again.
It was like
hats after I get done with them. That kind of hat.
Just finished. Yeah, just done. It was like no kind of structure. Had the name on it was really dusty. It was just nothing. But you know what I wanted to talk about this morning? I want to mention, and I know you asked me what's happening in my world. In Haiti, there's been a lot. Haiti couldn't catch a break this year at all with so many things naturally happening. And then those with the government and other countries who have no business in our business coming into our business to add fuel to the fire. Speaking of fuel to the fire, there has been a fuel shortage in Haiti and different parts of Haiti. They haven't been able to get fuel. They have been actually out there amongst the many protests that they have been doing on the streets. This was part of it as well for the fuel shortage. So people have been fighting to get fuel. The cost of fuel not coming into the areas for people to ride their motos, which is the motorcycles, which allow people to go from point A to point B, to get people's children to go from school to here and there, because some people go to school in the city by living on the outskirts. So many reasons why fuel is very important to get lights and things like that, because a lot of places don't have electricity. You know what I'm saying? To cook, all these things, right? So on the 13th, more than 60 people were killed after a fuel tanker exploded in northern Haiti, which is Cap Haitien. And the vehicle was involved in the accident in the city, and the victims, because remember I was just doing a strong emphasis, is that the word? A strong push on the lack of fuel in those areas, but the victims had been trying to gather the leaking fuel when it had ignited. So they were so desperate for fuel. When that tanker flipped, they were like, "Oh, is that a fuel tanker? Let's go get that fuel. Let's hurry up because we need that. And it ended up exploding in that area, in the local area, setting so many homes ablaze, so many businesses in that area ablaze. And 62 people basically burned alive, mothers, children, elderly, all of them. So local hospitals have been overwhelmed. The local hospitals in the area were already overwhelmed, already overcapacitated, and I can't imagine what they are going through now. And those who have been injured, who are still alive, are the ones filling up the area. The hospitals. So right now there's so much that is still developing. There's so much that is necessary and needed for these local hospitals. So I've been watching as it's been going down. Prime Minister Ariel Henry said that the entire Caribbean nation was grieving after the accident, as he declared 3 days of mourning. He said, "I learned with and emotion, the sad news of the explosion last night in Cap Haitien. This is what he wrote to Twitter on Tuesday. Pictures posted on social media show an intense blaze, because there was pictures and video of it at the scene of the accident. And this is Haiti's largest city. Cap Haitien is Haiti's second largest city, excuse me. And they said that it looked like hell, with people walking through, burning alive. All of this stuff is happening in Haiti, and this is, like I said, just an update right now. All of this stuff is happening in Haiti, and it's really, really devastating to many people who have people in the Okap area, which is Cap Haitien, and for all of us who are of Haitian descent, who have family in all the areas that have been affected by everything, down to the earthquake, the hurricane, the loss of the assassination of the president. The government already ain't doing right. The gangs taking people hostage. There is so much that's been going on. Now, I say that to say, where are these people going to go? They tried to come here. So that's a story I want to add to this too. We see all the stuff that's going on, y'all. I know I talked to you guys about my cousin last week who I was trying to get to come here to sign the papers for him. And as soon as that information was, I guess, given to where he was being held, literally that night, when he was supposed to be here for 30 days, the night that I called to get the information to get him to come and stay, they shipped him off. They shipped him off, and he had to hurry up and call me and let me know that he was being shipped off. So, but they gave him a test basically telling him, how bad is it in Haiti? And they were like, well, it's not that bad, so we're going to send you right back. They told him it's not that bad, so we're sending you right back. So all those people that we did see in Texas under the border who went missing and we didn't know where they were, a lot of them were asked these, I think it was a scare test or something, a fear test, that's what it is, to see how bad is it where they're coming from, to see if they are able to go back. And as we see in these particular areas, and I'm not going to say all of Haiti is like this, because there are still many areas in Haiti that people are, surviving, pushing, and everything like that. But in these particular areas, in these large cities, there's a lot of issues that are happening and that are going on. Now, this doesn't take away the beauty of Haiti, but this is actually what the people are going through and what my family is hitting areas that are going through. And so to know that there are so many people America turned away and were treating as savages and people who didn't deserve to have better lives for their children. What we see that's going on there, it always, boggles my mind for this place to be the land of the free and to be a melting pot and to be that for immigrants to come and do their thing. It's just like, and make it so hard, and
not black immigrants. Black immigrants. They're saying, give us your poor, you're tired, and you're downtrodden, unless they're black or brown, specifically black.
Yep. And the woman that I spoke to, who's actually has a shelter in the Texas area, Louisiana area, excuse me, she was telling me. She said, if you don't mind, is your cousin, what kind of immigrant is he? Is he a black immigrant? She's white. So yeah, he's black. She said, is he Haitian? I was like, yes. She's like, they're making it really hard for Haitians. They're making it super duper hard for Haitians. So I don't know, but the best of luck to you.
They've been making it hard for Haitians. I mean, period. In the conversation, that's just like a standard state of how the United States of America treats Haitians. Yeah. And I mean, I don't have to tell you that. I'm saying that from an outside perspective, from a black man born in America, to see how black immigrants are treated, specifically black Haitians are treated coming to this country. America has always had a disposition of animosity. Like they just treat Haitians as if they're the worst of the worst. And it's always been like that.
Yes, and that's why I want people to understand. Like when we walk around being as cocky as we are, that's because It's like no more allowing America to tell our story for us or say who we are. If there's any news, good or bad, I'd rather it come from us. Because at the end of the day, when there's any news, good or bad, and particularly white parts of the country, they know to still continuously paint America to be home of the brave, greatest land of them all. So when I'm talking about my mother's land, I'm always going to speak of it in a different manner. There are bad things that are going on there, just like over here. We're still talking about places like Ferguson, who for God knows how long, people got kids in high school now that were babies at the time, who when that protest was starting to happen because they still ain't got no clean water.
Flint. Ferguson was. And see, Ferguson was Mike Brown. That's
right. Was Mike Brown when they killed him, and then all of these, they're killing black people here every day. Without any reason, and people are getting off. It's there's so much assassin that's happening here, and everybody want to just talk about these poorest countries on certain parts of the world, and not understand why they are this way or what's happening. Listen to what I told you guys. They saw a fuel tank in an accident flip over, and they went over it to get fuel because they were desperate for fuel. There's a fuel shortage there. They were risking their lives to get fuel to be able to take care of themselves and their areas and their children. Come on, somebody. I mean, so anywho, that's what's happening over there. The story is still developing. There are hospitals that are needing supplies. I did read that. Once I get that information, I will post it on our Like It or Not page on Instagram, and on Twitter, on my Twitter page, and on the Facebook page, so that people who want to know if they can assist, in that particular way. Thank you guys who have been assisting throughout the year when it comes to all the things that have been happening in Haiti, and helping them as best as you can, helping me help them as best as you guys have been doing. So once I get some information on how they're being assisted at these local hospitals, I will let you guys know.
Yeah, Rebecca, it's been a hard year, a hard series of years for Haiti. I don't know, man. It's time for something to turn around. Yeah. It's time for something to change, because one thing I know, and I don't want to bring this, I'm loath to bring this up, but you remember that evangelical who was like, oh, Haiti is quote unquote cursed. Mm-hmm. And of course we know that's not true. The only thing Haiti's been cursed with is white supremacy and imperialism and colonialism, right? Let's just be sure that's the curse that's over Haiti, is whiteness. But it's just time for Haiti needs to prosper now. It's time for Haiti to prosper. It's time for good people to prosper. We've seen all these evil people, man. They're just like, Jeff Bezos flying to the top of space while his employees are dying in a tornado and peeing in bottles. Elon Musk becomes the Time Person of the Year while he is encouraging a coup, a literal coup in Bolivia so that he can get their lithium batteries, right? You have all these evil nations across the country. And then you have what's happening in Haiti, and you have Americans laughing and saying that is a curse.
Yeah.
If the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice, it's about time for it to start going in the other direction, because we have not been seeing justice.
We haven't been seeing justice at all as Black people in America, as products of immigrants in America, which most of us Black folks are, mostly everybody who ain't indigenous people, like all of us as immigrants here. But, we just been struggling, and to see the struggle in, like I said, where all of my family is from, and the struggle where I was born here in America, I can see it, and it's a fool. It's a fool. It's hard to adjust and understand that people don't want to leave their predominantly Black, where they know there's lots of rich resources country. They don't want to leave the country. But what happens is all of these people who don't belong, who have power, who have connected, who have thrown, little trinkets in front of the evil, corrupted government's face to just make people work for pennies on a dollar in so many different countries, not only in Haiti. They literally, they have made it so hard to want to live there so that they can continue to push the narrative that America is the greatest country in the land. But when you actually go visit these places and you hear these people's stories, the rhetoric and the narrative that America is pushing about all of these countries ain't even what it is. Ain't even what it is. Medical help is better in other countries. Right. Yeah. Education is better in other countries. I have a person that I met who is a doctor in Haiti. Went to Saint-Domingue in Dominican Republic, studied in Haiti, then went to go get the, I believe it's the doctorates to become a doctor in Dominican Republic. Came over here and was told, no.
They wouldn't recognize his
will not recognize it. Wouldn't recognize it at all. Wouldn't even allow him to take a test or anything. And I've heard of other people who have come from European countries who have come here and have been recognized, even with heavy accents. And he said because of his accent, they were saying, "Do you even really speak English? Do you even really speak English?"
Years and years of work being just
dismissed because and I want the folks to be sure the United States has a posture towards every nation. We don't have one single foreign policy or immigration policy. Like, we do cater our immigration policy and our foreign policy very specifically per every nation. And that is including bringing their elites and their educated people. Like America always says that we want highly qualified immigrants. We want people who are doctors. We want lawyers. And then they turn around and turn down a black doctor. Fascinating. Yeah. Funny how that works.
Don't want no parts of and the black doctors have to do the most. Black doctors here in America who even go to school here have to do the most to even get in. That's why they make it such a praise report on social media nowadays and to highlight that I finally got in, because the numbers before that were not matching. There was a low percentage of black doctors because they weren't getting accepted into these places to become doctors of whatever.
Oh, but the excuse for that is, because y'all, I don't even want to joke about that. The reason that is persistent is because every part of this system looks at black people and instantly thinks it's a lower quality of education, knowledge, experience, and qualifications.
No matter how much time you've spent in school, right beside
the rest of them.
Yeah, Hannah and Brett. You sat right beside Ryan and Karen. You sat right beside, Megan, and Matt. And you did your damnedest, your hardest. You did the projects even more. You went to go the extra mile while they just literally were going off a family name.
And let your name end with like Tanisha, Shaniqua, then you're not even going to get a call back. The Harvard study that shows if you have a black sounding name, you get called back 50% less of the time. So how do we even get a shot at this system?
And it's very necessary for that. So if black Americans can't even get not nothing, and they were the original doctors up in here. They was taking care of these white kids, white babies, white people who was dying.
Giving them ginger ale back in
all kinds of stuff. Before ginger ale too, giving them whatever the ancestors, recipes.
Rub a little fig leaf on that bullet wound. You'll be okay, baby.
Right. Going out into the gardens and the lands that they was keeping together for the masses in them and picking all kinds of things, natural herbs, and getting people together from yellow fever.
Yellow. One of our ancestors done took somebody's white baby and gave them some castor oil mixed up with some kind of root and save that baby life.
Because castor oil is the key to everything for Haitians, and we call it l'huile masquiti. So if you know as a Black American that castor oil is the key, that is the ancestral thing that we took with us from the where we originated at, and we brought it right here. And I seen how they tried to gentrify castor oil when I went over there to the Whole Foods. I went over there to the Whole Foods and I said, "What is this? What is this liquid that's not thick enough?"
What package they got it in?
What is it? Why is the color so light? This is not something I can put in my scalp. This is not something like you can give to the babies to make sure that they clean out their system. This is not something that can moisturize your skin. This is not.
Hey, what's the price at Whole Foods? You go.
Oh, it was so much money at Whole Foods.
Like $29.99 for a bottle of castor oil.
Yep. So then there was a Haitian brand. I'm trying to remember their name. Creole Essence that actually came into the store, and I started looking at. I said, now this is what you call some castor oil, but why you had to put it up in here? Now, I know you getting some money, baby, because now you in Whole Foods. But I don't want them folks just taking it and saying it's good for this and that and that and that. And they don't know, they don't even know what this really has in it, the power of it. But
they don't know. They messing around something they don't even understand. The roots
listen, Benjamin P. Dixon.
They gonna do it wrong. They gonna come out here with a limb growing out their neck.
Let me tell you. So, side note on that. I know we kikiing, but just to kiki a little bit more, there's a show on the internets, not the internets, but the internets that helps the show run on my TV on Roku. It's Roku. Called it's addition to Portia, who we know from The Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Right.
But I say this to say, it's about her life and whatever. But they done took, this white lady was a shaman, and they done brought Portia and them out there to go, and they calling on spirits, okay? They was calling on spirits. So the lady was like, the grandmother was like, because she's like, I feel your ancestors in the room right now.
Oh, God.
The ancestors probably hitting up across the head.
The grandmother said, now, she's like, I got chills. But the white lady was like, oh, yeah, you got chills? Then in the confessional part, she said, I got chills because I don't know what ancestors she's opening up. You can't just call any ancestors like that. You don't know what you opening up. So in the middle of the ceremony, the grandmother starts singing some gospel song. Said she needed to step in and then step in and stop the mass. She's like, because you can't, white folks don't know. You can't be just, you said you feel but what kind of ancestors you bringing? There's some ancestors that don't need to come on. They don't need to be coming on. And it's true because people get in this thing and start calling on spirits, talking about some, I feel the African ancestors. We saw with Paula White.
The African angels.
Call them African angels.
African angels.
Oh, God. Oh,
remember, she said that what was going to happen? Holy Spirit, activate. Holy Spirit. No, she said that Trump was going to win.
She made up a whole language in that.
That's speaking in tongues. That's speaking in tongues.
No, I know, but I mean, to most people, it's like,
yeah.
No, that's what
I know. It's not a made up language. I was just,
Oh no,
we know we sound crazy when we speak.
That wasn't that was made up.
That wasn't of God. That was a
that wasn't of God.
That was a Hebrew. There was no anointing in Paula White supremacist, is what I call it. She blocked me after I called her that.
Oh, really?
Hey, quick note. Speaking of Roku,
block me too.
I don't know if anybody on the team has checked out our list, our playlist and channel on Axe app, but they're making the graphics look amazing.
Oh, really?
I would
shout out to
like the thumbnails and for each segment. Like I think it's Matt over at Act that does it.
Shout out to Matt.
Hey, shout out to Matt over. See, Matt, we're sitting next to Matt. Shout out to Matt over at Act TV though. Shout out to Matt. Thank you so much. I would love to meet in the physical maybe one day.
Omicron is done with us. Unicron.
Because Omicron probably gonna turn to Septicon, and I don't know.
Decepticon.
I don't know, child.
Damn it. I'm hoping they said Omicron is spreading so fast, it's going to be the number one variant in already in a few days or something. But I don't know. There was a report out of Israel that said that the impact of the side effects of Omicron is far less And I'm really loath to even say that publicly because people have been so irresponsible with the pandemic already. I don't want to tell them that the Omicron variant so far, one report that I saw from Israel so far said that the impact and the side effects are less. Please still be responsible, folks. We went and got our booster shot yesterday, Rebecca, and we finally were able to get stable enough to go ahead and get our kids their first shot. But we're still going to quarantine, shelter in place a little bit because Jeremiah, the smallest one, he's not old enough to get a vaccine yet. But, I'm hoping, man. I'm hoping this thing can come to an end 2022. We got to get out of this.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to get out of this because it's been a
journey.
We are at the end of the of this year, and it's been a lot. It's been a lot of good and it's been a lot of bad. Let's talk about the good, about it. I think being able, to do, no, it's fine. Were you looking for the good of 2020?
Yeah, I was looking at who's knocking at my door. Go ahead, keep talking.
I was like, were you searching for the good that I was talking about? Because I'm gonna try to pull them from out of nowhere. He's on the show, y'all. But no, I was gonna say, being able to grow with the show, we talked about that. That's one. But also, me and my best friend were actually talking about what people are not really talking about when they're talking about the mental health and working in, the corporate environments and things like that. Here's the thing. They are talking about mental health, right? And saying, people are being more productive at the house. People are able to be with their families. I know that we've discussed that, which are great. Yes, I talked about that. These are great things that have been a result of people being able to work from home. Those who are still blessed to have their jobs after or during this pandemic. Now, we're not talking enough about how Black people are at home and no longer having to work in these corporate environments that make them small, that make them feel like they can't come in looking a certain kind of way. They can't speak a certain kind of way. Us having to diminish ourselves in these environments. Let's start with this example that me and my best friend, shout out to Edina Johnson. Me and my best friend.
That's her whole government name out there. Go ahead.
She's probably going to get me after this. But me and my best friend were actually discussing, this, and we're like, yeah, all those other things are good because we talked about those too as the time has been going on. But she was like, Rebecca, they're not really discussing, how we're able to be ourselves at home with our braids, at home with our, with our hairstyles, not being accused of looking a certain kind of way in a corporate workspace that may have me having my nails like this may have came off unprofessional. Men wearing their hairstyles in a form of dreads or wearing clothes that, are considered.
I can dig it.
Yeah, all these things we're able to really be at home and not be attacked with that false diversity and inclusion, right? Inside these corporate jobs and corporate buildings. We don't have to go through that and always being put last or being like walking into an environment that's very toxic. You come in there, you got a cute outfit on, they think that you're doing the most. Listen, I don't want to come in. See? And the thing is, we got to look dressed up going to the job. Because if we come in like Sally, right?
In the flip-flops and khaki shorts.
And whatever, who is okay to come in that way. But if you did, you'll get pulled into the office and asked about your attire, right? We got to make sure we keep our P's and Q's on. And as we discussed in the conversation earlier, that even us in education having to move forward, we are doing the most every single time. And I think that's one thing I can say for the people who have been working at home. Can I get an amen if you are a Black person in the comment section? If you understand what I'm saying right now, working from home has allowed you to just do you. Wear your red hair, keep your nails on while you're able to keep your job. Listen,
my broadcast
I need the
and my pajama
corner.
pants.
Listen. Being able to just roll over, and at least make sure you hit the toothbrush.
Yeah, we did that. We got that done this
You know
morning.
what I'm saying? But no, it does something for us. That also applies to our mental health. Being beat down every day in a corporate system that will make a Black person the manager or your superior in that specific area and have them beat you down too.
That's right. That's right.
And, it's very systemic. And now you're at home and you're like, they don't got to come at me because I'm, well-dressed or because I felt like walking around the room to go love on people and they're saying that's doing too much, or because I decided to take a 5-minute break from my mental health and it's doing too much, or because I came in with a hairstyle, or because, like Olay may say, because she is, nicely shaped. And she's like, I don't want to have to cover up because, all the time for you guys to make you feel comfortable. And that's what we were doing in these spaces. And I'm so happy that I didn't have to do that for a whole, 2 years now? I'm blessed and I'm highly favored.
Let me tell you something. They messed up. And they knew.
Yeah.
They knew that they could not let us actually get free during this pandemic. Because they knew if people, anybody for that matter, but specifically Black folks, actually had a chance to breathe and catch our breath from the very vicious cycle that this country has had us in since they stole our ancestors. They knew they'd have a problem on their hands.
Yeah.
They also know if they gave that same level of freedom to poor white people, right? The non-bigoted poor white people. I ain't studying like all those poor white folks who are like Donald Trump bigots. They can suffer and languish in the trailer parks as far as I'm concerned. But the good white people who are poor, they could not let you get free. Because if you had a chance to not work 80 hours a week and actually had a place that you could call home and rest your head and have one moment of peace, you'd realize how effed up this system is and you'd be ready to change it for everybody else. That's why they wanted to make sure everybody went to the work in the pandemic. That's why they made sure they didn't shut down this thing for real. They didn't shut down like some of these European nations. Canada was still giving people $2,000 a month. How much do y'all got from this government? $2,000 a month. Over the last 2 years, government's been giving their people, we got $1,400 one time, maybe $3,000 in the whole 2 years. That's because they couldn't let anybody else experience that freedom that you're talking about, Rebecca.
Hell no. And that's why, and that's such a great segue to what we're about to go in, but I don't even want to leave it. I want to talk about it a little bit more just for 2 seconds. I see everybody in the comment who is actually understanding and feeling it. And it's good to know that you guys understand. And even though, like you said, Ben, we became more powerful and peaceful in this place, but there was so much going on. Our world was on fire out there.
Literally, the oceans were on fire. Not only because of the pandemic,
but we were dealing with the protests that we had to show up at, not knowing if we can get COVID over there. And then while being afraid of getting COVID, people getting shot with rubber bullets, or
taking out their eyes.
Anti-Black people were taking their cars and running it through protest. White people were walking into protests and shooting people for free. Okay? So we had to find some kind of peace and joy. And for people who were blessed to go home and work, you knew that was your peace, because also that working from home job lets you go to the protest. Also, that working from home job lets you get close to your kids.
Come on, somebody.
To know your little bald-headed, snotty-nosed kids.
Hey, come on, hold on now. I was with you.
Being able to work from home allowed you to literally meditate or be one with yourself. Allows you to make sure that when you're coming home from work, because some of us wake up just to go to a job that's at 10 or 11. You had to wake up at 7:30 to get ready to possibly make a 1.5 hour commute because of traffic. And you didn't have time because you were getting dressed. Your house is a mess. By the time you get home, it's about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. You are too tired to do anything. Your home is still a mess. And we know when people's homes is a mess, you invite spirits of depression. You invite spirits, just can't sleep. You just messed up. Now you just want to get up and cuss out the job every day. It's just, you just walk in a different way. But now people were able to start families, Dwayne, and so much, and move and just gather themselves together. So I will say, it's been
a luxury. There's a two-tiered society now. Those of us who were privileged enough to be able to work from home, and then the essential workers who never stood a chance because of the type of jobs that they had. right? There's an entire group of people who never had the option to stay at home because they had to deliver groceries to us. They had to restock the counters at Walmart. You know what I mean? And there's just so many people who have yet to experience not living like a goddamn chicken without a head, giving every penny away to this system. Check to check ain't even doing it for them anymore. These people are so greedy that they don't even want you living paycheck to paycheck. They're okay with you staying in a homeless shelter.
It's sick. It is.
I can make 1.2.
Go ahead.
There's a stark divide in that there's a significant portion of the country that thinks we've had lockdowns. Like, they don't know what a lockdown is.
That's right.
They're constantly complaining about, we've had enough of the lockdowns. New York City didn't even have a lockdown. Yeah, things got shut down for like about a week or two. And it was like major things that were unavailable and off limits for a chunk of time. But there was not a real legit lockdown like we've seen in Europe and a lot of other places that have actually really kept a tight grip on the pandemic. And so, I mean, that's also what's prolonging the pandemic. But on the flip side of those first responders is the people that are complaining about a perceived
grievance
issue and with lockdowns that is non-existent.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh.
Shout out to Adina for that observation, because let me tell you something. The most powerful thing that ever happened in my life was I got lucky enough. Let me tell y'all something. When I tell my story, if I live long enough to tell my story, it's going to be a hell of a story. I got lucky enough at the beginning of the pandemic to have busted Michael Bloomberg, right? Before that, I probably would have had to drive for Uber during the pandemic. No shame, but I would have had to do it because I got to feed my family. A lot of people like, oh, somebody said Ben Dix is worth $1 million. Not yet. We will. But I got lucky. And the thing is that there's no. All of us are in situations where if we don't get lucky, we would have been out in the pandemic as essential workers. But now, what are we going to do about the essential workers who don't have the luck of the universe and stumble onto a story that can help me and my family stay home? And when I was able to stay home, Rebecca, let me tell you something. I had a level of peace for the beginning of the pandemic that honestly changed my life. I didn't even know what that was like.
Right.
People think I do this show and I'm rich. No, I used to work 3 jobs while I did this show. And then finally, at the beginning of the pandemic, I got to sit at home and not work 60 hours a week and spend time with my family. And then they had to mess around and kill George Floyd, and I kind of lost a little bit of what was left in my brain. But that said, I think everybody needs to experience that kind of peace.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was at the brink of, because when I first got the job, it was, and I haven't worked in corporate ever for real. So me going into corporate from coming in out of media and feeling like, okay, let me just go and take a break. I was so excited. And then, like I said, all of that was happening in the job. It was crazy. All of that toxic workplace stuff was happening in the job. And I started having to give myself 5 minutes. Inside of that building, they shut off your internet service, where I was having to contact my best friend through email. I remember having to contact you, Ben, through email saying, hey, can you see this? I just wanted to say,
Am I here? Can anybody hear me?
Can anybody hear me? Hi.
Is there anyone out there?
That's what I used to have to do. I used to have to sneak my phone over to a window on the left side of the building, in a corner on the right side of the left side of the building, and sit down and have my phone on my hip and move it just a little bit to the left, 2 degrees. To get one signal and receive some kind of message.
Does anybody out there love me?
Listen, can anybody see me? Can anybody hear me? You get so lost in those places, and you're right. In that moment, I wasn't making nothing, but I had ended up saving money before I started a coup, and I walked out, and I said, I ain't coming back to this COVID building, this COVID cubicle situation.
This petri dish.
I ain't coming here. But I saved enough money to be able to move, because that was my goal, move into my own place, get me a car, because let me tell you, car was gone, was living in the shack with my sister. It was a hard time, 2019, because what I had came from with the media world and the year before. So finally getting that job, I had to save every penny I had to get, to get out of that. And every time people see me, oh, you do this and you do that, I was still holding on to, at first I was like, I'm never going back to politics. And then I was like, I can't do this. I can't work for the main, like these people I can't be like this. I can't do it. I'm losing my mind.
If it's between having to grind this politics and hustle this politics with me and going to work for those clowns.
Yeah. So I ended up doing both.
Until I can get the money up. Patreon.com/like it or not.
Patreon.com/like it or not. If you want to get some money to me immediately, that is hashtag Becca's Voice on Cash App.
That's
but
right.
I say all
don't send, do not send. Please don't send super chats. There's a 30-day delay. 50% goes to YouTube, and it makes me have to do paperwork. What's your Cash App again, Rebecca?
It's the paperwork, everyone. It's the paperwork.
Dollar
It's
sign.
also the 50%. I don't feel like
Becca's
doing it.
Voice.
Dollar signs Becca's Voice.
Yeah, no.
All right, it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock. Well, what do you want to do? You want to keep it open today? It is Wednesday, or do you want to?
I was gonna call it a day. Hey,
Before we call it a day, though, because we can go. Before we call it a day, we go though, because we can go on this topic forever. Every time we get on it, it really lightens me up because I'm like, I am so happy to be alive.
Okay, let's do this. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, but Joe Biden, you talked about us getting $1,400 checks or $600 checks or whatever, and I remember when he was campaigning, he was like, "Shouldn't the American people receive $2,000 checks? Shouldn't student loans be cleared?"
Remember, it was 50. They took us down from clearing all the student loans down to, okay, we're just going to do 50,000. And everybody was like, oh, okay, whatever, do it. And then they were like 10,000. They were like, really? And now they're like, nah, let's just go ahead. Y'all start paying your loans back.
I cannot
Sorry to those
believe that
loans.
this is sorry to all of us. Okay, we put so many people in these seats. And I ain't seen that black lady do nothing yet. I ain't seen that lady do a thing. I ain't seen her do nothing.
You don't like Kamala, do you?
I am Listen, now I didn't like her way years ago because as you told me to do, you like Rebecca, you like Kamala so much. I feel like you plant that seed in my head. You said, Rebecca, I said I love her because she's black. And I feel like she's going to change the world. I feel like she's going to be someone to make a difference. And you told me, go look at that lady policies before we even had this conversation in the space. You got to go look at the lady policies. And as I started to go through, and you gave us homework, because we were in boot camp, y'all. He gave us homework, and we were looking at the policies of Kamala Harris. And I said, oh, no, she didn't. What?
No. But we still supported her in the general election. We still voted.
So that was years ago. So now when the general election came on, I had to understand why not to support her because she's a black woman. That's when
I never supported her. I just voted.
No, that's when I moved on from that mindset. And then, whatever she said that she was going to do, I'm like, okay, she better do it. She better, because there's a lot of politicians who are crooked as hell, who, were like, well, they did that for us. So, they said they were going to do it, and they did it. But here, in this particular space where we had Donald Trump, who did really bad things, and now we have two people who were supposed to represent us in a way that was supposed to be monumental and life-changing, and something that is groundbreaking for the White House, not only because of the first. It was supposed to be something that actually exuded and showed us change, and they went in there and said, psych.
No, not only did they say psych, they said, don't come.
Oh, don't come.
That was the boldest statement I heard from her.
Don't come.
What makes you feel like, did you clearly identify who planted that seed in you?
I did. You got me together on that. And because of you, I get my family members and friends together. I don't sway them on where to go. I just say, hey, it's up to you.
I like Kamala well enough.
Do you?
Well enough to vote for her over Donald Trump. Shit, that was the easy choice.
Yeah.
But in terms of is she doing something for black folks?
Yeah. And that conversation is
no more than Barack Obama did.
And but during Barack Obama's time, that was we understand that in that time. That's why after when he was voted again, people was putting the pressure on that ass because they were like, okay, now we had you because you was black and you did make changes and you are the change that we ain't never see in this country. But my God, today, like we're in 2021, Kamala is that too, but we ain't seen her. She ain't been showing up.
But we did get a good. No, it wasn't even good. Let me stop lying. A rendition of "Oh Amazing Grace"
from who? When it was
from
Obama?
Barack Obama. Yeah.
But not only that though, he did other things. He did other things that we don't like. But he gave us. He never walked around like he was a white man. As far as he didn't use.
You lost your microphone.
I see.
Yeah, that's freaky. What happened there? There you go. It's back.
Oh, it's interesting. I saw it come off. Yeah. And we talking about Barack Obama.
They didn't cut us. Hey, man, let me tell you, they've been shutting my stuff down, though. Like, I got... Anyway, I'll tell you after the show. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Biden sucks. Fight me right now. Like, literally, pull up because I don't care anymore.
Hey, did y'all get that clip of Iggy Azalea? Because when you were talking about Iggy Azalea the other day, at first I thought you were talking about Azalea Banks. I always confuse Azaleas. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about Iggy Azalea saying that we should not criticize Joe Biden because he's better than Donald Trump. Did y'all get the clip of Iggy Azalea trying to freestyle that I shared in Slack? You remember she was at that big festival?
Iggy,
she was like,
Iggy had us all turned in the early 2000s, so don't do Iggy.
Iggy was like, I
think that was her accent that was giving it like we couldn't.
We got that clip.
That's a very embarrassing.
I didn't see you drop anything.
Anyway, when you say don't talk about Joe Biden, I think of Iggy Azalea saying that. And I also think about how trash her freestyle was.
Joe Biden, everything that he said, yeah. We were. If indeed we did not have student loans, a lot of us could get our credit scores to like 700 right now. Because I know y'all credit scores has been going up. If you've been taking care of it in this time that student loans haven't been, something
they ain't
on
even
there.
Got student loans, bro. Rich people ain't got student loans. They good.
You sure?
I mean, unless they just got it to make an investment, right? But that's why they're not going to cancel these student loans. Student loans are literally a part of the system. There's an entire group of people who are waiting on their quarterly profit margins from student loans. Yeah. So they're not going to cancel student loans anymore. They're going to get rid of check cashing stores because they have monetized our poverty and they monetize our hope to get out of poverty through education.
Go to school. Borrow money to go to school. I'm talking about money that we ain't never gonna see with our hands in our lifetime.
Right.
Borrow money to go to these. Never gonna. Well, I rebuke that because God let it touch my hands because I owe about over 100 something.
No, I'm talking about those specific dollars. I'm not talking about future dollars.
Yeah.
I'm talking about those dollars that I got to go to school to get the education that I got. They didn't exchange my hands. They went to an administration.
After 2 years of having them on block and we done broke up, we haven't been together. They got the nerve to try to send me, hey, what's up? Let me tell you something, Navient. Let me tell you something.
Sally Mae.
Greater Lakes, whatever. Leave me alone. I don't want you no more. I don't want you. I don't want you. I don't want you no more. I have moved on. I am a new person. That person that you used to put fear into, used to give anxiety to, used to tell me that you was going to look out for me and you never did. We ain't here no more. That relationship is over. Leave me alone.
Let me share this one last thing about this whole thing. This whole process. You talked about the credit score, 700 and all that kind of stuff. Having a good credit score ain't even enough no more. Right?
Talk about it.
Especially if you're a renter. If you're trying to rent, having cash and a good credit score is not enough. You know what they're asking now. It is a standard request amongst a lot of companies. If you want to rent, they're asking for access to see your bank account. Like they want to do an analysis of all of your expenses and you want to see my income. Cool. You want to see my bank and see that money deposit every month?
Where we can, take out
black out all. If you want to see that, that's nope. They looked at that and they say, no, that's no longer acceptable. We need to see your whole account. And I said, no. They are making it's not good enough. They need control over your life. They need to be able to look at your account and tell you what you should spend money on and what you shouldn't.
You're right. Like they took away that, and had us growing our credit score. They're like, nah, we need to find a way to continue to control these people, like you said. And just like the job place, we at home and they telling me you've been off for 2 minutes. So I've been off for 2 minutes because I'm on the toilet, heifer. Get away from me. Like get off of my ovaries. Move, get away from me. I've been gone for 2 minutes because I went to go get the mail. I've been gone for 2 minutes because my maintenance man is at the door. I've been gone for 2 minutes because I decided to just rest my eyes from looking at the computer screen for so long and look outside like my doctor told me to do to make sure my pupils are still going to be all right in the next 3 years. Come on, somebody. Leave me alone. Control. They will find a way to control you. In the renting system, it sucks that it's like that.
Yeah. I don't know how people are surviving now. I honestly, me and my wife looked at each other because when we're in the process of moving, and they keep asking to see our. No, you will not under any circumstances get access. No,
any of my life. Yeah,
and then I'm finding out that that's not. It's just people. They're asking that of everybody these days. The system has changed so hard. They're making it so difficult for people to just have a place to live, Rebecca.
Because they mad that we started coming in. You think I would have got this community right here if my credit score didn't shoot up to where it shot up? Praise God for Jesus. And I came over here to reverse gentrify this predominantly white area that was only specifically made for white YouTubers. I came here and they gave me the numbers on this place that was still being built before my eyes. And I said, oh, sign me up right now. The Lord told me to sign up in that moment because it was too good. I knew if I left it, offer would have been gone. They would have been a black girl.
How long you been there now? You've been there for a couple of years now, right?
2 years now. No. A year now, actually. It feels like 3, but I've been here for a little over a year now. And praise God for Jesus. I have paid my rent. One time it was a struggle, I can't lie, but I have paid my rent every single month on time on these hoes. And they can't say nothing to me. They have got the police officers to come over here. Bottom neighbors had to move because I'm gonna be walking through my house with my high heels on to get to the door. Mind your business. Next door neighbor's gonna get this music playing from my place. You don't come to my door with no mess. I had to build that culture for myself in this particular area. But I said to say, you're so right. I would have probably never been able to live in this area, move into the space where now the rent has almost doubled. Jesus and they're making it hard for people to come
just in time.
And stay here. Yeah.
You got in just in time, and it is in reaction from all the investigation that I've been doing, because I ain't playing with these folks, but it seems to be in reaction, this new requirement that rental companies are asking renters is in reaction to the pandemic and all of the moratoriums on rent and evictions, rather. And so now they're saying, before you even come into these places, you got to be able to show us what you spend your money on. I'm like, okay.
You don't got to see that I spend my money on drugs. You don't got to see that I spend my money on chicken wings all the time. You don't got to see that I'm spending money on Hennessy at the liquor store. You don't got to see what I'm spending my money on. That's the thing. You really don't, because at the end of the day, like, they're going to judge you off that. And you know what they're going to do? By what you spent your money on, they're also going to correlate that to you being whatever race you are. Trust me. It's always
their way of
happens
discriminating without discriminating.
Right. Right.
Yep.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't even know that was happening, but all that happened underneath us during the pandemic. So if any of you got to move soon, best of luck to you, because they are cracking down on everybody, because the government had the nerve to say that during the pandemic, we should not evict anybody. So now landlords and these companies are like, oh, well, now I need to see how much you spend at Starbucks this month.
And that's the thing. But they don't want to see how much Karen is spending on Starbucks this month, because she just came in with all the credentials, just as you did. And they probably told her, oh, no problem. And you don't have to pay any move-in fees.
Anyway, so good luck to everybody out there. Things are getting crazy, Rebecca. We'll see how these things unfold over time, I guess. Right?
Are we?
That's all we got. What's that?
I said, are we going to see how things unfold? Is it going to unfold? Is it going to unravel? Is the new year going to bring me some, some new edges? Like, what are we doing here? God, what are we doing here? But that's why I said,
it's going to get better.
Let us talk about the good things. And we touched on that. And I'm happy that we did. Hopefully, you guys, I'm able to leave corporate. I know I say this every day, but that's the goal. I want to leave corporate. I'm back at work.
I think you're trying to get fired, aren't you?
I'm back at work. They don't want to because they do not want to give me that unemployment money. They don't want to give it to me. So I'm back at work, and every day is hard for me. Not because I don't want to work. I just don't want to do this work. I don't, you guys. Just getting back in, already having a spat with my my superior, my manager, her deciding no longer to communicate with me, and she's sending one of her what do they call them? Her assistants.
Well, we public still.
That's okay. Because I don't care no more because they done gave me that time off before saying what I said. So now I ain't saying no names. It is what it is. Her assistant literally is the one that communicates with me now, and because she decided that she doesn't want to communicate with me because I was like, this is what you said yesterday. This is what you did, ma'am. This is what it looks like. I didn't send you the screenshots twice. If you look what's highlighted in green, this is where you were. This is where you were. This is the numbers from yesterday. Don't put them numbers out. That's what I have to do with her. She doesn't like that. The control that they have the black person controlling. That's what they do, and she doesn't like being spoken to that way. Like the movie Django. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like they got that one person trying to whip us all into shape. That's what it is.
They're gonna always assign a black person to do their dirty work. Always, without a doubt. Not a doubt. I know. But
we're trying to be free out here. I want to do this. and I want to work with this great community that I'm working with now.
Rebecca, I'm trying to be free. You really, the people love you. The audience loves you.
This is it for me. After this, I have to get into, I got to break this down and go into work. So when I'm talking, it's because I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave.
We got to find you a corner in your spot that you don't have to break down your stuff every day. Because my guy today, if I have to break down this every day, y'all gonna be looking at my avatar.
It's okay for me, but I'm very big on the aesthetic. I live in like a condo style apartment, so I gotta make sure that when I'm done slaving for the man, I'm looking around saying, at least I can pay my bills. At least I could, I don't want to look at cameras in the corner. I don't want to look at, be tripping over stuff. I got to keep it nice and, peaceful in here for me. So that's why I put it away every day.
Well, folks, this part of the show, I always like to abort mission and get as many minutes as I can. We got 13 minutes that I could give back to all of you in the rest of your day. Special thanks to, obviously, you, Rebecca, for doing what you do. DJ exclusive on somebody's beach with somebody's son, probably. I hope you are drinking and having a good time. I don't expect to see you until you're back in the States. Dwayne, David, all the family at Act TV, we appreciate all of you. Georgia Ford, salute to our sister this morning. Rebecca, that's all I've got. You got anything?
Rebecca, you kept him on as long as he's willing to tolerate.
Yeah. I see, because he hates to be here. I see, but
I love to be here. You don't understand.
I just like the chat responses when Ben does this. They're like the eye rolls and the seriously again another day. Seriously,
we're ending the show. That's all. It's 18. Y'all are spoiled, man. Our audience is. We give y'all 2.5 hours.
How we spoiling them? It's a job.
It hasn't been 2.5 hours.
We give you roughly 2 hours a day, approximately an hour and 45 minutes a day.
Yep. Look, Shay said I want Rebecca to quit her job just so she can finally tell us who corporate is. That must mean you just came on the show because I done slipped up and said who corporate is about 4-5 them times.
Yeah.
But y'all, I'm not quitting. Unless I have backup plan, you know what I'm saying? Like, unless there's something I can fall on, because I don't want to look for another job and go work for corporate again. I don't want to do any of that. I want to just do this. So I love you guys. Patreon.com/like it or not. Hashtag Rebecca. Oh no. Hashtag Becca's voice. Becca's voice. So on Cash App. So anywho, I love you guys. I'm gonna head out. Ben, I'm giving you 10 minutes to go.
10 minutes back in my day. I appreciate you, Rebecca.
To
Thank
go
you
do
so
what you
much.
need to do. I love you guys, though. I thank you guys. And it's
That's valid, Ben. That's a valid complaint.
This seat that I'm on is torture. You have to understand. Like when I get up from this seat,
Ben has to get a cushion before the.
I literally have to roll over to the floor and stretch my lower back to get off of this particular seat. Thank you, Rebecca, for giving me 10 minutes back.
That's valid.
All right. I love you guys so much.
Love you, mean
Talk to you guys later. Shouts out to Dwayne and his baby girl, too. Bye, guys.
Q Robo Bubba.
Good morning, people. Y'all know who it is. Y'all know the voice. Y'all know the sound. It's your boy James with the Williams. DJ Exclusive in the building. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. We got one coming up next on the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Little baddie, cashing big checks. I bought the whole block out. Now that's a big
No,
flex.
sir, it is
Peeping out my
in the
Uber window
flesh.
like
Blue
what's
shirt and
next?
all. Good
Got new
morning,
levels and new devils out the wazoo. Ain't no worries, life gets better when you find you. And if you mind you, peace will abide and hide you
Shout out to
until
Georgia
it's time to
Boy
start
and
anew.
Pastor Anthony
So live it
Galloway,
up,
man.
be grown,
Good to
ain't got
see
no
y'all as
curfew.
usual.
Who brought the bad vibes? Tell that bitch move. Walking all in my inner, that's a bitch move. Press that I arrive.
Laura
glad that I
Strada,
survived.
KFC, Jeremiah, Lily, Promises Manifested. Showston, what's going on?
Had wings, I was always this fly.
Tiger, what's going on, Tiger? Bunny Rabbit, I'm so high. Okay, buddy. Juanita, good morning. Jonathan, Esther, on and on it goes.
All that jealousy, you should subside. I think it's time to turn that mirror on to you. Put it up
good
close for a
morning.
clear view.
Shay, good morning to you.
Deep down inside.
Sophia Williams, good morning.
And soon you will find a pretty soul that needs more shine. My world has come to
Waterstones, good morning. Kareem Ransom, good morning. Courtney the SLP, good morning to you.
There is no good or better. I think tonight
You still sounding loud today?
make it mine. 1, 2, mean right hook.
Okay, Marsha Reese, good morning. Miss Nuru, Silk City Socialist.
Never let up, no
Leo
need to
Potts.
speed, but keep your foot up on
Christopher
the gas
Shaw,
pedal.
good
Ain't worried
morning.
About having a golden award when God made
Vincent
me to
Melody
be an
Dennis,
ice cold
Esther
meadow.
Rochin.
Why are you always
Shelby Hall,
testing my
Nat.
life?
Hey, what's
Talking with
going
your
on,
frenemies
sister?
about me saying, ooh,
Afraid
girl,
not
have you
to
seen that
whoop
like the shine lights?
testicles.
Could never dim my light.
Good morning.
I'm untouchable girl.
Good morning, everybody. Make sure you get your coffee, your tea, your drinks, whatever it is you need to get your morning started, y'all. Y'all stay tuned. We got one coming up next on the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Say a prayer tonight to keep your soul tight.
And also that means Benjamin Dixon can't come through. Y'all get 30 minutes of
I
yours.
put the work in. Now I got the big bags that you call Birkins.
Yeah.
My world has come together. And maybe
Iris, good morning. Chris, good morning.